The whole idea of ease just felt very undeserved. So I spent a lot of my life hustling. And, at the time that I met you, I was working three jobs.
Welcome to Spiritual Rockstar Podcast, where world changing spiritual entrepreneurs come to deeply awaken the power within to bring forth their greatest purpose, to create massive awakened impact for millions of souls around the planet, while enjoying being in tune with all life and real wealth in all aspects of their lives. I'm your host, Daniel John Hanneman. And welcome everybody to Spiritual Rockstar Podcast. I'm so grateful to have you here with me. I have got a fantastic guest, and it's so fun to be reconnecting with this person. Actually, we connected back in the 2000s, and so we'll talk about that later. But like that, I'm so grateful to see what's unfolded in this soul. She is a great example of like she got infused with the spirit. She broke free. She's doing all kinds of things now, keynotes galore, and I don't know, all the things to help people to go from worth to wealth. And we're going to talk about that today. You ever feel like I'm not worth it? Then you don't have the wealth, right? So I don't know. We'll see how what her approach is, what she's got to say about it. But I know she's got incredible energy and incredible wisdom and insights to share with you today that will help you to feel empowered and help you start claiming the worth that you are. And therefore, the natural wealth that you are, it becomes unlocked in the process. So, Carmen, I'm so grateful to have you on today.
Thank you, Dan. I'm so grateful to be here. And it's just wonderful to be reconnected with you after all these years.
Likewise. And yeah, and I know we were talking about it. And now, did we meet in person at that time? I know you went through my energy sketch training, but I forget if you came in person at all or not.
I don't think we met in person unless you
Okay.
were in the Twin Cities area at
No,
one
no.
of
I mean, I'm
the,
here in the Chicago area, so I'm not too far away. But yeah, I think
yeah.
it was probably my online energy scan training stuff at that time. So that's fantastic. And you've gone on to just evolve and do all kinds of things and all kind of impact. And but it all started way back when is you were a farmhand, I want to say, right? So, you were from that background, it says here that where there was the idea, right? I mean, farmers typically on a farm, it says, it's a lot of like, work nonstop and, it's all about that. So how did you go from, that kind of background where it's like, you got to earn it, you got to actually put in the sweat, to, where you are now, realizing, with that early conditioning, shaping some of that relationship for sure with money, how were you able to, evolve past that and finally shift?
It took a while actually because there was so much conditioning that I was only worthy of money if I worked really hard to quote unquote be deserving of it. And the whole idea of ease just felt very undeserved. So I spent a lot of my life hustling. And at the time that I met you, I was working three jobs.
Wow.
And so I went from this whole sense of, in order to have money, I have to struggle, I have to grind. And it was kind of this proving energy always. It was always like there's only a finite bit of it there. There was, and I wasn't aware that subconsciously there was a lot of lack that was running the show. And so it took, kind of a dark night of the soul of kind of a change in my career that actually impacted my whole identity, that forced me to really look at what was I programmed for. And and that evolution really led me to a lot of different truths about money. And I realized, money wasn't the problem. It really was my sense of what I was worth that was at the root of all of that. And and now, I majored in my own problem, right? Sometimes we have um, these things that are a challenge for us that become something that we're here to teach because we've lived it, we've experienced it, we've embodied that. And so we really have that life's experience and insights to share with other people. And that's where I am in my journey.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, that wow. I mean, and then you do you do healing, you do the coaching, you do you do it all, the kind of right. So you're doing all these different things, and that early conditioning we get, yeah, it's tough. Now for me, it was a little easier. I had two parents who ultimately had their own businesses. I mean, they're solopreneurs, but so it's kind of different to me, solopreneur, but I'm basically a solopreneur. But yeah, I mean, it's a little bit different than a full-fledged, bigger business. They mostly had like one reliable client and then some extra clients and stuff like that, most of their business careers. But I did, like that actually is a big reason why I have the faith and trust to do a business. It's like my parents did, of course I can do it, right? Like I mean, like that idea is there. So I think like I did get an inside advantage, by having that with my parents. But I also they never, my dad never consistently prospered hugely. Ultimately, the same was true for my mom, although she did better. So it was always like, yeah, you can prosper, but eventually, I might run out, and all that. So there's different things that we have to work through, each of us, where even if we come from a lot of money, even like there's still like certain infusions like where that becomes a problem too, right? So like it's just our relationship with our worth, and oh yeah, we could have a lot of money, we're gonna have to work yourself to death, is like everywhere, right? Like it's how most people do it. So but yeah, you talk about starting with really owning your worth, and that was a big. So how were you able to start, cracking the code on that, on your journey?
Well, it happened after all along I was starting to get more into energy work and spiritual work. So I took your class on energy scanning. I learned a lot about, muscle testing.
Mhm.
Um, and I was in the coaching world. I was in higher education where I had my own coaching program, and I coached in the corporate world, and then I taught on the side. So I had these kind of three spinning parts. And then the fourth was I had this tiny little private practice. And at the end of 2015, the universe decided to kick everything except for my private practice out.
Mm.
And even a relationship that I was in. So it was this dark night of the soul because it was just a lot of things all at once. And sometimes you need a vacuum in your life to really examine, what's your truth? What's the real core of what you believe and what you're meant to do? And I think a couple things happened. It really got me in touch with my divine purpose. And all along, I'd been living it. But I was meant to bring in more of that my spiritual gifts, my healing gifts into my work. And all along, people that knew me, I help people a lot with career life transition and figuring out their divine purpose. But people that knew me in that role kept saying, Carmen, don't get too woo woo. You're going to scare people away. And I believed it. But the minute I started integrating more of those gifts and who I was and embracing all of that, that's when I started to prosper. And that helped me crack the code because I was able to come up with a process of how to get to those subconscious beliefs that were running the show that I wasn't aware of. The beliefs of lack, the beliefs of, you know, money is the root of all evil. You have to work really hard to deserve or be worthy of money. Or you might turn into a really greedy, unethical person if you get wealthy. Or, hey, you better stay small to fit in with everybody in your life. And those were some of the things that started to come up for me. And I was able, through an energy process, to first understand how did those things serve me? Because awareness is the first thing without self-shaming. You're right. Kind of being the curious anthropologist, like, okay, what am I believing underneath all those, underneath the radar there? And how has it served me? Because whatever got you to where you are now, helped you survive, right? It
Mhm.
served you in some purpose. So there's a lesson and a gift. And then what do you want to replace it with as you release that? So I became aware of that process and began integrating that into the work I do. And so I really integrated that into the coaching and help people get to, from surface level beliefs down to what's the root? What's the fear? What are you holding on to that you're scared of letting go, that you're afraid of meeting because you're afraid of that change or that awareness? And then what do you want to replace it with? And then you talked about when we first got on the call about downloads. I embrace that whole idea of downloads too, because, you can from the creator bring in a knowledge, identity shifts, and feelings to really embody and anchor in a change. Like, say that you've never known what it's felt like to feel safe with money, or what it's felt like to be at a certain income level. So after I've helped somebody make a shift, um, I download the feeling and the knowledge to anchor that in. So to answer back to your question, it was really a process of learning and experiencing that for myself and a lot of trial and error. And then not listening to people that kept saying, don't get too woo woo, you're going to scare people away. I boldly put it out there and found it didn't scare people away. It attracted people to me.
Mhm.
And it helped create a different niche. And also, it helped create a new career path that is more wildly satisfying because it's more transformational for the people I work with.
Do you want to meditate and make money? Let it be simple. Let it be easy. Let it be fun. Go to yoursacredpurpose.com and get your free meditate, make money meditation today. Right, right. That's fantastic. Yeah. So we all have our own different belief systems and whatnot that are, holding us back, right? And that keep us feeling like we're not worthwhile enough, or, who am I to be able to do whatever and then make money doing it, especially for the spiritual entrepreneurs or people who do spiritual work or energy healing and stuff like that. And so there's all the past life persecutions, if we get right down to it, right? Like it's all specific ones. I almost very rarely see a healer type that hasn't had that in their history.
I
So
agree.
usually always something there with that. And then, then and then I work, historically I do. I work with probably 95% women. And so I'm always seeing, those aspects too. I mean, men have, worth issues too, but like with women, I'll just say this because it's a little fun to say this, I guess. I don't know. Like I had a client, I'll just say I had a client once that said like she felt like I had white male entitlement. Not like I'm going around acting like that, but like just she just feels like, and you know what I mean, subconsciously or whatever. Just like I like that though, but that the way you just like, you let the good stuff in or whatever. So whatever, however she said, but like how you easily just ask for what you want and then receive it or whatever, that type of thing. And it's not so easy for many women and many men too, but like, a little bit more women maybe, where it's harder to receive. And because there's histories with all these things, like with women, there's history of like, well, maybe it's not safe to give. And then like, I don't know, what do you expect from me? How's that going to work out? Like, and are you going to think it's good enough? And I've got to please you, right? And all that sort of thing. So those dynamics run all over the place for women's lives often. And then, for men, we just feel like if I'm not bulletproof, I'm not good enough. Like we've got other kind of worthiness type of issues as well, just on the worth level, not even get into the money part yet. But you had your own, so what are some of the common ones you've seen that hold people back? And then I'd love to hear, which ones, one or two that particularly you work through.
Wow. That's such a question, Daniel. Um, you know, the thing that comes to mind, I'm going to put out a couple of them. I'm going to pick on my husband. I'm going to grab one of his. Oh my God, if I make more money, I'm just going to have to give more of it to the government and I'm just going to have to pay more in taxes. And I'm like, honey, that kind of mindset blocks your worth because it's the whole idea of, um, you know, then it's not safe for me to have more money because I'm just going to have to give it away or whatever.
It used to be one
So
of mine, Carmen. Back when you met me, it was still probably when I was breaking through. I'm
yeah,
trying to give it away so they can do more bombs and stuff. So I was like, let me not make more money. That was one of my bigger ones. I actually had to clear it through. At least that's what showed
yeah.
up.
Well, and I think there's the whole idea. I'm gonna pick on a couple, and then I'm gonna share a client story because there's one that really brings up a great transformation. But I worked with somebody who was from Colombia, where having money wasn't safe because you were a target. You were a target of robbery or kidnapping. Um, People who just didn't feel aligned with how money came to them. Maybe they inherited it from somebody, or maybe they didn't feel safe with money because they never learned how to manage it and were afraid of, oh, I'm just going to lose it, or I'm not going to handle money really well. Um, I think mine, if I had to pick on mine, it was kind of an identity of not feeling like I was enough. I'm not enough. Oh, I better go out and get another certification. I better go out and get this and this and this and this more. And so it was always based on this external level of achievement where it felt like constant proving energy.
Yeah.
And when I was able to kind of dial it back and just realize I'm enough, I'm worthy, um, it led to a whole transformation and it led to the creation of my signature methodology, which is called the Worth Code. But I'm going to grab one of a client that was a really interesting one that I'd never seen actually before. And, we got into a theta state. So we get into a bit of a little hypnotic state when I work together with a client. And I don't want to get deeply into their story like I do when I'm got the coaching hat on. Here, I want to get kind of quickly to the bottom belief. And so, we started with, his issue about money and what were some of the earliest things that he recalled being told about money. And what he'd been told by his dad was, rich people are evil, they're unethical, they're greedy, so rich people are bad. So the
Mhm.
whole idea, like if I become wealthy, I'm going to turn into one of those evil, bad people.
Mhm.
But as we kept digging deeper and deeper, and then I'm energy testing along the way to see if it's a bottom belief, the root was he felt like he was going to be a failure and he was going to be a failure to God, like that he was going to be like totally incompatible with his life truth and with God if he got wealthy.
Mm.
And I knew I got to that root belief because he started crying, and he didn't realize it was there, but it was just like this boom. And it was an interesting thing because it was like he told me later it was like this big clog, like this energy clog that was released. And then we replaced it with whatever he wanted as an empowering belief and program, and then again the lesson and the gift of how the previous belief had served him, and then the transformation. But we did another little recalibration too. We also checked to see, like, where are you set in terms of your money? Because people often have a thermostat in terms of what they think they can earn, where they're at. I can never earn more than this, or I can never earn less than this, right? And so I did a little checking on that for him. And he had a belief that he could never earn more than $1,000 a month for the consulting work that he was doing. So we cleared that out as well. And I just asked, like, what do you want it to be? Where do you want your set point to be? He said $15,000 a month. I'm like, all right. So we reset his wealth blueprint to that. And within 2 months, that's what he was making.
Wow.
When I got off the call, then I had to check because it had never occurred to me before. I was divinely guided to that.
Yeah.
I had to check, like, where was I sitting? Because sometimes your clients are your biggest teachers. Like, you have an aha moment with your client, then it's just like, well, ding, ding, ding. Maybe I should be checking to see where I'm at.
Right. Right.
So,
Exactly. Where's my set point? What am I telling myself? Right. I mean, I just recently had someone on the show and she says, "Yeah, I'm part of this thing or whatever." She was part of a uh Sarah Elkins, who she's a beautiful, wonderful soul, and she's part of this thing though where, like that I don't know, I didn't know if I resonated with what they're doing, but and I was pretty open about it, but I mean, maybe it'd be a great thing. But like I did like this I is an idea for right people, right? Like what if you just have five dream clients a year? They each pay you 200 grand, 200 grand, which is basically about what you just said with 15,000 as a foundation, right? Like, why are we setting our sights so low? That kind of idea. And like, if we wanted to, there are people that we could serve that are, already making tons of money or whatever. And it would be worth them to them to get that kind of support from you. So, I think, like I think sometimes when we're like, I don't know, if I charge, another go to 5,000, 8,000 for my package or whatever, and we get so worried about these. I think sometimes like to break through that set point, one of the things that can be really helpful is just to be like, what if you're charging 8,000 a month, like or whatever, like just to take it to the next level. And because what I have noticed for myself too is as I'm starting to develop, what I'm doing overall in many levels is like the more you think it's a whole, I've said it before on the show, like the whole 10x is easier than 2x, right? Like the more you look at it from a higher perspective, it actually feels easier. It's like these incremental like jumps. We're like, oh my God, that's a lot. Well, what about, 200 grand a year? Oh, I don't know. It doesn't feel real, but yeah, yeah, like it doesn't feel real right away, right? But then it's a matter of getting it to feel real, because maybe you don't think you're worth, you got to earn it. Like I think like isn't that like I would love to hear how you teach around that, but like the idea you actually have to so-called, prove that you're worth it or you earn it, like you mentioned those things. Like it's not even about that, right? Like I mean, like so how do you approach that when someone's like oh my God, I'm really gonna charge that much? For example, like, is there something with the way you work with that helps people let that settle in? Is like something like, yeah, it could, like it becomes like automatic for them to feel like that's what they would be able to do.
well, thank you for that question because that's a powerful one. Um, and in grappling with that question is what led me to the worth code methodology. It's my 5 pillar system.
Mm.
And so this is how I work with it. Um, so the worth is an acronym for the W is waking up your why. I realize I just raised my hand.
No
Whoops.
problem. I'll take care of it.
By doing that. And I tend to talk with my hands, so whoops. But it's about waking up your why because wealth is attracted to a powerful mission and purpose. And we are all here as deliberate creators for a powerful mission and purpose. So the first thing I do is help people really get in touch with that. And also part of that is kind of clearing out like what's no longer serving you. You know, what kind of beliefs aren't serving you, what kind of is in the way, what kind of physical clutter, because sometimes we can't let anything in because there's so much, physical, intangible clutter that gets in the way. So the O is for owning your value. And it's for just realizing and recalibrating the whole idea of your self concept. Because in order for you to evolve to, bring in more money and feel aligned with it, your self concept has to match that. It has to match that vibrationally. And so we do a lot of work on that. And that leads to the R in the worth code, which is replacing those limiting beliefs and programs with empowering ones. Again, just like I was describing with the previous example I used with the client, we replaced the limiting program that somehow he was going to be a failure to God by getting rich because he'd been told that he was going to become an evil or a bad person.
Mhm.
So we had to get rid of that, excavate that, replace it, and then really reinforce it. You have
Mhm.
to reinforce that programming. And then
Mhm.
the T is for then how do you take your passions and your purpose and turn it into profit? Because we all have ways of making money. We all can adopt an entrepreneurial mindset, even if we're still kind of holding on to a job. And I'm kind of that person that you meet along your journey when you have this great idea, but you're still holding on to the safety of a job. I'm there to kind of give you the nudge and help you come up with ways to take what you have and turn it and package it into a profitable offer so that you're working in your zone of genius. And the last part is of that worth code is the H. And it's really about harnessing aligned and divine systems that maximize your visibility, but really maximize ease and flow. Because I think people think that, having a business, scaling a business, getting wealthy requires a lot of the hustle and grind.
Mhm.
It doesn't have to if you have really aligned systems that work for you. So that's more getting into the nuts and bolts of, how do you set up really good systems in play and, and models, for your profit that work for you and the way that you want to work and how much you want to work, so you can have some time freedom because I think
Right.
often people feel like they have to trade their well-being and all their time in order to be an entrepreneur, in order to be successful. I'm going to have to work so hard and it's going to take so much of my time. I'm not going to have all the support I need. So those are the things that I do to help people. And every incremental shift, there's mindset stuff all the way as people are reaching different levels. As they become more successful, you reach a different level, all of a sudden, you know, different kind of fears in imposter syndrome, different types of self-sabotage sometimes sets in that we have to clear out so that you can continue to scale up with ease.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, all kinds of different things. I mean, I know that sometimes there's so many things, right? But yeah, I mean, for me, I know that there's so many things you said that I could talk about, but I was just thinking about all of them, and I'm like, well, I want to talk about the working thing because there's so many. I talk about it. Everybody talks about for the most people, a lot of people these days anyway. There's always the other camp, right? But there's a lot of people that talk, especially on this show, around ease and flow, and you got to regulate your nervous system and all that stuff, and I agree with that. But I've also recently I was listening to somebody just the other day on a podcast. He's a pretty well-known guy and like fitness, health. He trains athletes and stuff, and but anyway, I liked what he said about it when it comes to performance with the autonomic nervous system. He talked about there's a lot of talk about, hey, we all need to chill more. We need more recovery time. We need more of this and that. I've been so much about, that for people. But I've also now I'm in a season for me where, I'm feeling differently. And he talked about that. He talked about that's great for some people. Like maybe that's what you need. Maybe that's all we focus on. We just need to all parasympathetic, all parasympathetic. And he's like, but really you're optimal when you're operating in both trains. You've got a lot of the sympathetic stuff, the energy is ramping up, and then you've got a strong parasympathetic, and you can regulate between the two easily. So I thought that was so brilliantly. Maybe it's kind of obvious on one level to a lot of us, but like But then again, it's like not so obvious because a lot of us are being told, yeah, chill out. And but I think like for me, like, that was fine for me for a number of years, but like, I don't know if part of me is like, I only got so many years left. Maybe that's a lack paradigm in someone's brain, but like to me, it's real. It's like I got whatever, 30 years or more left, right? And I'm just like, I've been taking it easy, for versus my capacity, a lot of that time. There's times I burn myself out, but like I've been taking it easy. I'm ready to go. Let's go. And so I feel like I'm more in that season, but then I still have to work with, not, going past certain places where I start saying things like I said yesterday. I said, this feels different, like I don't usually feel this way. I feel overwhelmed today, right? And so it's like, okay, okay, I got a lot of things happening right now, but also, personal life, business and stuff like, okay, and need to, don't let it go too far now, we gotta make sure, get relaxed enough, everything. And so I feel like, yeah, easily with the hard work thing, it's like the idea it's never enough. Like that virus is really persistent. Like even if you feel like you got over it, you could find yourself back there. I have like, oh my God, I'm doing all this stuff, and I still got people that's thinking I should be doing more. Like there's people in your life, right, or whatever, and then I don't blame them though. Ultimately, at first I might, but then I'm like, wait a minute, like that must be my belief that I'm not doing enough, right? So it's like we have to keep working on these worthiness, beliefs we have and realize it's not necessarily always about, and I'd love to hear if you agree about we need to just tone it down and everything. Sometimes we have to ramp it up, right? But then the belief systems that come on both ends, like now I'm being too lazy, now maybe I'm not going to make a lot of money, or whatever. Like those fears can come in if we don't get the recalibration you talked about, right? Like, oh, for some people, it's almost like insane. Like they feel they could never relax more, right? So, because then they would feel like I'm just being, they get the laziness idea, right? So what do you find? Like, do you ever find people that really need to find that, really sharply honed balance between like, working with like ramping it up versus like, toning it down, so to speak, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I do. I resonate with that. And I think, what you brought up just in that example now is that we do pay attention to messages that we receive from other people. Are you being too lazy or, whatever. And sometimes we're comparing ourselves to other people too,
Yeah.
that are in our field, and that can be a disease. I like there's a Theodore Roosevelt comment, and I might get this wrong, but it's something like comparison is a thief that robs you of your happiness, or it's close to that, but I think it's true. And also just messages, because you know you have to look to see, is that really coming from me or is that external? Am I trying to please? Am I looking for some external validation out there? And where do I feel? And I think it's a sense of both. There's times you feel like, gaga, you've got something that you want to accomplish, get done, but then there might be a point where you lose touch with your inner voice.
Yeah.
And I have a client that this happened to recently. She came back from a business cruise she was on, and we do some work together. She's supported me in areas, and I've supported her in areas. And she just came back from this vacation. It was supposed to be kind of a business networking thing, but it was also supposed to be relaxing. And she looked stressed and exhausted.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, what happened? And she realized through it all that the people she was trying to attract in her business were not the people she wanted. And we did this little, contrast through clarity activity to help her get clear on it. And she realized she was going after people with big egos that were never satisfied with her work, that were that those egos were taking away her energy. They were not aligned with her anymore. And she'd gotten herself into a lot of like networking groups where her calendar was full of all these networking meetings. And it took her away from the work that she was doing that made her feel a sense of satisfaction. So I recommend that she take some time off just to get back in touch with her inner voice. And based on the little contrast to clarity activity we did, I sent it to her. And then 2 weeks later, we had a call, and she was completely relieved and resolved and had kicked a lot of things out of her life and got really clear on a very small niche that she wanted to work with. She wanted to work with people in the financial service industry because they knew exactly what they wanted. And she'd had good results with them and didn't feel like there were a lot of egos that she was dealing with. And she got rid of all these kind of networking groups and things that she just felt were mucking up her calendar and creating a lot of busyness that was not her zone of genius.
Mhm.
And it was like feeling her energy, seeing her energy on that next call, Daniel, was, it was just so different. You know how you can just feel,
Right.
I mean, you're an energy
Mhm.
scanner,
Right.
and, you can just see that, wow, she got back in touch with herself and she could hear her inner voice again. And because she'd gotten caught up in the shoulds, I should
Yeah.
be doing this. I should be part of all this networking. I should be working all the time. Da 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 da. She was so disconnected from her own GPS system. And
Mhm.
now she was back in touch with that again. So, just to wrap this up, I really think, you know, we can go through these different stages, but it's maintaining connection with your own GPS system so that you're online and that you're not putting out all this proving energy. I got to prove that I'm not lazy. I got to
Right.
prove
Right.
that I'm, worthy or that I'm doing enough. I got to prove to my sister who notes on Facebook that I went on a vacation, who makes snarky comments that Carmen, it must be nice not to have an alarm clock anymore. I got to prove to her that I'm still working hard. And
Yeah.
by the way, that's reality.
Yeah. I could hear that. Yeah.
And I let that go. She's going to think what she wants. People are going to
Yeah.
think what they want. And it's none of your business what people are going to think. They're going to judge you anyway. What
Right.
it comes down to is, how do you feel about yourself? How are you aligned with your mission, your purpose, your passions, the things that give you joy, the kind of lifestyle that you want to lead, the things that you feel are important for you to accomplish? Not being worried so much about, gosh, I'm about to turn 61 in a couple of weeks. How many more years do I have left? We all
Mhm.
got a limited time here on this part of reality.
Mhm.
um, but we're here to enjoy the journey too. I
Right.
believe we're here to have fun, and that it enables us to put our gifts out in a more, I don't know, positive, connected and aligned way if we have the joy with it too.
Mhm.
So
Right.
I guess that's how I would respond to that.
Yeah.
Being in touch with your GPS and your joy, I think, is so important, and not worried so much about what people are saying, you know?
Right. Right. Yeah. The comparison thing is real. I mean, I know I consciously and unconsciously compare because I think we all do. I think if you're honest, like most, I think again, there's always somebody who'll be like, I don't do that, but I know they do because we all do. It's natural for our brain to do that, you know. Well, they got this and I got that. I don't know. I want to be more like that, or they shouldn't have that. I bet they're crooked and how they did their business or whatever to get to that level of their business or whatever. You know, yeah, all these different. Because yeah, for again being with this for 20 years, it's like I've heard, not lately because my consciousness changed, so probably that's why I don't hear it as much. But yeah, I just remember hearing so much about how evil and horrible these people with money are, and everything. And that's, of course, and they don't have too much money often, usually don't have that much money because, they're they're looking at the downside of having money, right? That's what they're fixated on because they're desiring the money. They want to make more money. But they're like, yeah, but the thing is, I'm a good person and I'm like one of them at least, you know? And so we come up with these ideas but yeah, you feel bad. You're like, man, I wish I had that mansion, or I wish I had that vacation, or I wish I had, yeah, you're feeling bad at the same time, right? It's a really interesting thing that we can do to ourselves. And so when I see it coming up at me, I'm like, God bless them, man. They're amazing. They're awesome. You know, even if I know they've got warts and like we all do, whatever. I don't fixate on that as much anymore. I used to do that. I used to be that person sometimes. But I'm just like, no, God bless them. I'm so grateful they're leading the way in that regard. And they might be completely miserable people too. I always don't know what their life really is. You know, all we see is what's on social media. So why compare ourselves to that? We don't know what that's all about.
Right. And we can it can just suck a lot of energy. I think that's the bottom line is,
Yeah.
it can suck a lot of energy, and really all we have control over is ourselves
Right.
and how we view ourselves, how we have gratitude for what we do have. And we can still want more, because sometimes what we see out there, inspires a desire in us. And that's not wrong. It gives us ideas like, hey, maybe I want to go there or achieve that or experience that.
Mhm.
And it's like, that's great, because it sparks something in us. And instead of feeling envy where we want to take somebody down, you know, it's more of a like, hey, thank you, bless you. That's cool that you have that, because it awakened in me a desire, a curiosity to find out what it's like to have that or go there, whatever that might be. And I think we're always evolving. We're here to master soul lessons. I always think that in the end, we're all just walking each other home, right? And everybody we meet is either a student or a teacher or both to us. So therefore, we're always evolving and expanding. We don't stay static
Hmm.
in this experience here in this 3D world. And because something worked for us 5 years ago, we're not that same person, you
Right.
know?
Right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think that's a mistake, right? That's not all that uncommon. It's like, man, I had it going on back then. How did we get back there? You know, whatever it is in life, but including business, it's like if you've had some real success before, how do I get, even if people are going from corporate to coaching and healing now, like there's always those people listening in. It's like, I've been so successful. Why do I feel like such a fish out of water now? But they know, one level, another level, they keep questioning. And should I go back to corporate or if you've already been in business, like I said, man, that stuff used to work really good. Maybe I can get that going again. And maybe that's the way to, get more prosperous or whatever. And so there's a reason why everything ended. Like for me, I was doing the certifications for a long time with the energy scanning and in 2017, I just shut down the Academy for Invincible Healers because it was just a feeling I had. Just like still doing well. It's just, but it wasn't growing. It wasn't growing anymore. So I was just like, I don't know. I want to grow. I I feel like there's something else that wants to happen, and it actually has taken me 9 years to kind of figure out like really what wants to happen next. Now, so I think it's okay. Like it's the first time I'd be that comfortable to put it that direct, like to the public, which I think is a good sign. It's like, oh, maybe you are onto something then, right? Because I
Good for
really am.
you.
I'm like, right? Like
I
I'm really,
celebrate that.
but like I've been judging myself for years. At the same time, I'll be honest. I'm like, oh, what's wrong with you? Like, and of course, you keep creating more of that experience, and I know all that stuff, right? But like, that still like was a mind virus. I'm like, what is? And it ended up being like the most obvious thing that's like starting to really generate like so many obvious things, like keys for me, the way I focus on things, um, the way I can do scanning. Like, why don't you double down on just doing more service to people? And for me, it's like the opposite. Like I was doing the high end packages, right? So it's like, but like I don't really, I want just very few of those clients because I just like to give full in whatever I do, and like so I can only really take so many of those kind of clients. I can't just you get a little bit of time, see you later. Like it's not really my nature. But so like but to have groups, where I do scanning and healing and help people to live heaven on earth, and like that is like my thing. Like that is my jam. I was doing that in the academy, but I was so focused on the certification and people making money first and everything, like kind of first or whatever is part of the deal, and it kind of like took me away from realizing what my real core is. Like hey, let's get abundant in the energy and then everything's possible. And it's a lot easier too, right? So, but it's, my point to everybody is like, it takes some time, but if you work with yeah, you work with, I don't know, Carmen probably helps with that type of stuff too. I'm sure she's intuitive, right? But I help with that kind of stuff. Like when you work with somebody that maybe knows it in advance for you, if you listen, right? Like maybe you can shave off the 9 years of the decades or whatever, it's been. I mean, I've helped people like you have, like have been stuck for decades. Like we have never been able to break through. And then all of a sudden, like something about the way we're able to transmit to them or share something with them breaks them through. And we can be that answered, prayer for them. And I'm so grateful for that when they have. So, but yeah, I mean, our life is a process unfolding, and for me, I think it's just like I had to realize, like, not only like I got to get out of my head and just do what, yeah, like the obvious stuff, like do what just lights you up. Don't worry. I think I was over worried about results in that realm, and but I'm awesome at that. I'm awesome at bringing the energy way up through the roof. I mean, yet I was worried about it. Like it's so wild. Like we're worried about the things we're most brilliant at often. That's what I've noticed too. So have you noticed that too, Carmen?
Yeah, well, it's called attachment,
Yeah.
being attached to an outcome,
Yeah.
because we want it so desperately that sometimes that attachment creates kind of a blockage,
Yeah.
from the natural flow of things, or we
Right.
get so hung up on like
Yeah.
how it's got to happen,
Right.
instead of being open to it might happen in a different way than what you conceived of, and it could
Right.
be even more miraculous and better than you ever could have
Imagine.
considered.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree with you 100%, because we put
Yeah.
conditions on things.
Yeah, I love that. The attachment, I was attached to the idea I should grow, I'm supposed to grow, and then it just put me in my head, honestly, even though I always a tuner inner, but like I got so in my head, I wasn't able to see the most obvious things clearly enough. Once I just said, that's it, whatever it is, I'm ready. I got uber connected and clear to that idea. And whatever it takes too. Like, and I know like that's a dangerous one because that might mean like you're gonna put yourself into exhaustion, but still, whatever it takes. Well, ultimately, if it takes more rest, I'll do that too. But I'm just saying, like, whatever it takes, like that kind of mentality. Yeah, and it's my pleasure. I like the idea of right now anyway. And if I need to reel it back, I'll reel it back because I've done that before. So it's like, like I feel like I'm in a startup phase with what I'm doing right now. And sometimes, that requires a little bit more of us. So that's why I just like to put that message out there too, because it's like there's a time and place for everything, I think, sometimes.
Well, that's exciting for you,
Yeah.
and i'm I'm going to be watching and waiting to see what you're doing next,
Hmm.
because I think, we go through different stages of our life where we're carrying different roles and responsibilities too. And
Yes.
at certain points, what fits because of what we have on our plate, you know, doesn't work in another phase of our lives. And I think, we're constantly reinventing ourselves and getting back in touch with, what's the main thing, what's the thing that gives us the most joy and satisfaction, what helps you really appreciate the work that you do and the results that you achieve with people. And the sky's the limit, especially with the gifts that you have, you know so
Oh,
I think
thank
it's
you. Thank
natural,
you.
and I'm glad that you felt vulnerable enough to share that with your audience here today.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like what's there, like what's there to hide? I don't need to let people, talk. I'm going to talk about every little aspect of my life, right? But like, I like to share. I like to make it more real, like try to help people understand, what's possible. I just tried all different types of things over the last 9 years. Most people be happy with the success I had over those 9 years, by the way. Like, it's not like he was destitute. He was, like in terms of like business prosperity, it was just like it was a different phase. It was like, what am I? I don't know. I'm into this kind of right now, but like I know this is it, so to speak, right? Like I feel like it's not, and then I thought it was it, right? Certain things I thought, oh, maybe this is it. And no, that's not it. Like it's like dating, right? Like maybe this is it. No, that's not it either, right? And like so all I can say is like, man, there's been so many like I never thought of giving up like in the beginning of my business career, but there were times during that time I thought about getting like maybe at least attempted like oh maybe I go back to mental health. I got the similar background to you with the psychology and all that, right? Like yeah, man, people are recruiting me all the time, even now. Like you still get messages, $1,000, $2,000 signing bonus. Come on, we need you or whatever, right? And it's like, well, it sounds tempting, but like when I sit down and look at it for more than like 3 to 5 minutes, it's like this makes no sense. Why would I ever want to do that? Like so it's interesting, like, the ability to continue to say no to what you really don't want and yes to what you want is all about like realizing you're worth it, and that it will always, in my experience, it always will pay off, when you continue to maintain that clarity. So I love that you talk about like, you talk about all this stuff. So not quitting is a big part of it.
Yeah. Well, and I named my business Intentionality because I believe that when you have clarity about your intentions, you can live your truth and you can own your worth at the highest level of success that you want to have. And it is about, what is your intention in any given moment of your life, but also any kind of phase that you're going through. And I think it's just having the faith and certainty that you're going to be okay, that it's not just an existential crisis or whatever. Um, we have our times where we're questioning, am I on the right path? Could I tweak some things, or do I need to just completely um, do something completely different? Is it time? And I've witnessed people make such radical career changes throughout their lives. I think it's amazing. Um, I love that here we are in this space and time that we're able to do that. I think about my parents' generation where, the whole mindset was, you were kind of locked into a career for life. And if you didn't figure it out early, you in it, and if you changed careers or jobs frequently, that was a negative thing. You were kind of seen as unstable or
Mhm.
somebody who just wasn't trustworthy or whatever. It was
Mhm.
just perceived, I think, differently than where we are now, where I think there's a lot more choices. There's new opportunities that are always evolving. You look at AI and what that's created in our world now, and just the globalism. I think of how different my life has been since 2020. The whole COVID thing, what happened for me, which I never perceived happening, I went from doing primarily in-person work. I did kind of maybe 50-50 to mostly virtual. So therefore, my husband and I are able to be in Florida in the winter, which is where I'm coming to you from now. And then,
Mhm.
living in Hudson, Wisconsin, the other part of the year in the summer. So it gave us more freedom
Mhm.
to travel and still be able to do the kind of work that we want to do. And I think there's just more technology now to support that. And that
Mhm.
offers more choice too. It can offer more confusion and more noise too. So that's the other thing. It's kind of balancing, how do you turn off some of the noise that technology creates, right?
Mhm.
If you've got everything pinging you and
Right.
never feel like you can keep up with the messaging and the the information that's coming your way, but there's also great opportunities too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So that's one of the big ones is the level of distraction is potential is through the roof these days. But you know, what comes with that is all the innovation and all the opportunities of the technology that's creating those additional distraction opportunities. So if you can master your focus within this age and utilize the tools wisely, man, yeah, that's really, really huge opportunity. Huge. I was giving thanks for that today. I'm like, because you know, you get down on like, oh my God, this technology isn't working well right now, or whatever it is, and I'm like, well, wait a minute, like, it's been so good to me though, and so great for me. It's working so well, like, because it is, you know. When it doesn't go well is when we get all, you know, crazy about life or technology, whatever it is. There's so many good things happening all day long, right? So I appreciate you. You really have helped. You know, we got more show, but like you really help. You're really good at helping people. You are one of those people. You help people to open up. You make people feel really comfortable. I really appreciate you bringing that to the show today. It really helped create like me sharing some of the things I shared. So thank you for that. And then I know you have some gifts for people and opportunities for people to gain more from you. So I'd love for you to share about that.
Oh, definitely. Well, I mentioned to your listeners today about the worth code. And I do have, it's kind of a downloadable about all the 5 pillars, and it's called 5 critical shifts you must use to scale your business. So it takes the worth code and breaks it down and gives some pointers. There's just 5 pointers there to help you with your business. If you're an entrepreneur or thinking about becoming one and want to scale up. But the other one is every month I do a workshop, except for the month of July. I just find too many people are on vacation or traveling the month of July, and I take it off too. So I do a monthly masterclass called Unlock Massive Wealth and Abundance. And it's a little bit different every month. It's partly informational and partly transformational. It's a 90-minute session, and I invite people to register. I shared the link. The next one that's coming up is April 23rd. There'll be a May one. I'm scheduled through October. Haven't figured out the last 2 months of the year just yet, but I'm working around a little bit of travel there, trying to determine those last dates. But I invite people to attend that. And then, I invite you to reach out if you're interested in doing some work with me. Let's have a conversation and look at, the different things that I offer that could be a fit for you to help you gain clarity. I have something called Claim Your Calling to help you get clear on your divine purpose. I have a program called Worthy, Wealthy, and Wildly on Purpose. And it brings in a little bit of the, helping you find your purpose, but it really is kind of helping you raise your standards of worth and recalibration so that you can accept more money, receive more money, and really align with deserving more. I do a half-day VIP day too, which is a really cool day where I have 2 different tracks and people can kind of pick from how they want to do it, where we can spend some time doing some internal work, on energy work of clearing and getting rid of some of the head trash that I call, and bringing in the things that you want. But we can also spend some time on business systems and helping you get clear on your niche and working on some of those aspects if you're an entrepreneur and feeling stuck. And it can be completely tailored for you. And then I have a wealth to worth transformational mastermind that I only allow 12 people in. It's by invitation only. So if you're interested, let's have a conversation. And I really look at people who are established coaches, healers, and impact-driven entrepreneurs, people who really want to make a difference in the world. And it's really a container of safety, support, where it's, helping you build your business, but also all the internal structures that you need, the mindset, all the pieces that you need to scale your business with ease and flow. So those are some of the things that I do. And love for you to reach out and connect with me on LinkedIn or on Facebook. My business is called Intentionality, and I call myself the Worth to Wealth business mentor because essentially that's what I'm about doing is helping you really get tapped into your sense of worth and purpose so that you can live a life and business that you love by design instead of by default.
Right, right. Hallelujah. So we'll
Yeah.
put those links into the show notes wherever you're listening, hopefully. If not, go ahead and where can they go if they don't see show notes and whatnot? What should they type into their search bar or whatever to find it?
Well, you can reach me at intentionalityconsulting.com. My website is going through a reconstruction right now, but you can still find contact to me there. You can find me under just my name, Carmen Croonquist, on LinkedIn and on Facebook. Um, I'll share, with you how you can reach out to me, my email or phone. I respond back as quickly as I possibly can to any kind of inquiries or people that want to, set up an appointment with me, a strategy session to, you know, talk about your life, your business, whatever it is, or if there's a block or barrier that you're wanting to change or resolve in your life. I have these 2 block sessions for clearing because I think it's really important at times to end chapters before you start new ones. And sometimes that's the problem people have is they're carrying energy along and they haven't really cut cords. They haven't kind of ended and marked complete certain things in their lives. And so I have a process that I do to help people end chapters so that they can then embrace and start creating new chapters in their lives too. So those are things that you can do to reach out to me. I look forward to it. I welcome. I think that the kind of audience you have are the kind of the spiritual rock star entrepreneurs. These are my people, people that want to, that are heart centered, that want to help others, that want to ultimately want to raise the vibration of the planet. Because I think, when I think about what's my big mission, it really is to raise consciousness on a global level so that we all are more aligned and bring in more well-being and prosperity and just kind of happiness and peace for everyone because we're all worthy of that.
Yes,
So that's what I
absolutely.
encourage.
So it is, yes. Well, okay, well, we'll just take a short while here to wrap up the show with my energy scan spotlight. Guys, you gotta tune into this, see what the downloads are for Carmen today, and maybe for you too. You never know. It might be something there for you. Often there can be. So, Carmen, are you ready for a couple of tune-ins from me today?
I am.
All right, let me see what comes through then to share for you today. Yeah, I mean, one of the things is I kept hearing white witch, white witch, white witch. So it's just like, just the like the power you have of manifesting for yourself. And then of course that goes to your clients. So that you have any part that might have been caught up in like, oh, you're dark, or just even if it was projections on you in past lives or whatever, but like it's like now it's still moving that energy, but like there's a lot more empowerment that wants to happen through the magic you are. Like I don't know, just this white witch, white witch. So that just like you have like the ability to really, you're such a joyful, creative person when you let loose, right? Like it's just like boom, 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 boom. But you're probably similar to me. At first, people might say, "Sure, she's just a quiet, nice person," right? Like maybe I don't know. I know I get some of that sometimes, but then they see me get on stage or something, right? Whoa, okay, wow, all right. I didn't know you were like that, right? So, but yeah, so you've got but that ability um, to manifest and to draw in for yourself and for others is really strong, and it's got more potential still. Whatever, you're scratching the surface a bit still. I mean, whatever. Yeah, I mean, there's still more there. It's the bottom line. Okay, let's see what else is there. Yeah, there's still a little bit of yeah, I mean, we've got way, way, way better, but like there's still something about saying no, like in the throat showing up. So there's something about being just a bit stronger and certain, again, I mean, to be certain situational, but like you have to be just stronger to say no. Whereas I
Boundaries.
think you're over right. Your pattern has been like, well, maybe let me look into that, and maybe we can make this work. And something inside you already knows you're supposed to just say no, right? Like, so that's what I'm getting about you is you just have to learn to just stand in the strength that you feel deep down in your body. I want to say it's just like saying no, and like you're oh, wait a minute. And get a heart in your heart, right? Like, oh, I don't know. Maybe that sounds like fun. Maybe we'll do this. And then like, oh, why did I say yes to that? Yeah. So yeah, just continue to clear through that one is the other download for you. And that's for a lot of people.
Yeah. Because when you say no, you can make your yeses even stronger.
Right. Exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Automatically makes what you really yes do stronger. Right. So
Hmm.
yeah, absolutely helps to. So, okay, great. I'm glad it resonated. Saw you nodding your head quite a bit. So, so that's good. And
Is there anything
every
else you pick up?
well, we can talk afterwards too. But like, so, so guys, if you want to check me out, you go to yoursacredpurpose.com. Go ahead and opt in for the gift. Get the free meditate and make money meditation because it's a lot of good stuff. I mean, people said it's filled with coding and stuff beyond just making money, but tune in. It opens up your chakras, helps you to tune into your guides, and again, we've had one of our guests come on and she says she's put it in the back end of one of her programs, per my permission, for people to benefit from it because she had benefited her so much to build her business. So it's a free gift. I think go get it at yoursacredpurpose.com. The other opportunity, though, is to stay in touch. If you enjoy this show, this is a for some people this is a go-to show. So like if you like, yeah, I think this might be one of my go-to shows for a while at least. Like then you want to go ahead and get opted in there too, so you get notifications of the next shows, and you also get high value content for me of just me being straight, being real about things, for your business and your life and your spiritual development, all that stuff and your gifts, like you go check that out. I send out pretty much purely values based stuff at least twice a week. And then we have all the podcast stuff. So basically, when we email you, it's so that you could take advantage of something that'll benefit you. And yes, we do promotions, but we send out a bunch of stuff to help you. So so go ahead and check that out at yoursacredpurpose.com. And the last thing I want to say about all that is if you're like, I want one of those energy scans too, we'll see about helping you to get into that. There is an opportunity on the website, but if there's an upcoming event or something, we can notify you right away. If you just say, I want an energy scan, in the subject line when you opt in to get your free gift. All right. All right. So, Carmen, I'd love to give my guest the last word. Any last words for the audience today?
Just remember that you're a powerful creator and you're either creating by design or by default. And so be more aware of your focus. Are you focused on what you want or what you don't want? And being focused on what you don't want provides clarity, but make the flip switch back to what you do want and get back in that energy flow and align with that and create deliberately. And you're
So
worth it.
you're worth it. Yes, so it is. All right. I jumped in a little early, but like, yeah, like, yes. So great. Thank you so much, Carmen. It's been so great. I feel very liberated being in your energy field and just you give a sense of permission to I just have what I want. That's it. So yeah, I appreciate that about you. Thank you so much for all you've shared today.
Thank you so much for having me on the show. And it's so wonderful to reconnect with you after all these years. Keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you. And to our audience, like I always say, keep on tuning in and we'll keep on rocking it here at Spiritual Rockstar Podcast. Till the next time. For listening to Spiritual Rockstar Podcast, stay tuned for our next upcoming new episodes each Wednesday and Saturday. Please be sure to subscribe, rate, and review to help us to serve you best. As a reminder, you can get your free Meditate and Make Money meditation at www.yoursacredpurpose.com to rock your sacred purpose. Goodbye for now, everybody.